Thank you. I'm really excited to be here today because I am sick to death of the Me Too Republicans and the Communist Democrats, and I want to see this party soar. Most people know that what I do is talk about Agenda 21. I travel the nation. I've been 27 years. I've been experiencing, trying to expose this and what's happening. Now, you all know, you all feel the results of that because you feel our world is being turned upside down. Our system of government is being changed. All of our rights and so forth are. We are in the middle of a Far Side comedy, practically, with government and the craziness that's going on. It's going to get worse and worse and worse. We're dealing with people who are determined, absolutely determined, to change our way of life, our system of government. And Agenda 21, the agenda for the 21st century, that's what it is. They said when they introduced it, it was a comprehensive blueprint for the reorganization of human society. Think about that. That's what it is. It affects every single aspect of your life. Now, most people, when we get involved in elections, get involved in presidential elections. That's where all the fun is. That's the excitement. That's the big rallies that take place. Get your bumper stickers on, get all that. Our founding fathers, when they created this country, they very wisely created a system where the local system, the local government was to have the most effect on you. Now, we've changed a lot of that, obviously, the federal government, state governments, but it's interesting to note that the left understands perfectly the power of the local government, and they have used it very effectively to change, literally changing our local government. Our local governments are being changed from city councils and county commissions that you elect how you want your city to be run, to regional councils, non-elected regional councils, 15, 20 counties, all in the same region, and people who are untouchable to you. And what we're beginning to find is an arrogance of government, a corruption of government, massive amounts of money, massive amounts of political power, and they are doing anything they want to do to you. I was in Colorado last week, and they were talking about a lady who had a home, and the BLM decided they wanted it. And they just took it, and they said, by the way, you got to keep the upkeep on it. This kind of arrogance has got to stop. My goal in life is to wipe the smirks off their faces. I want them to feel the pain. But when we're talking about local government, a lot of people don't get involved. And I want to show you what your government really looks like. What I need, first of all, I need one volunteer. I've been told that you are the best of the Constitution Party and that you will volunteer. So before I'm done, I'm going to have all of you. I need one volunteer right now. This is the easiest job of the whole thing. I need you to hold these so I don't drop them, okay? Now, when we're talking about all the policies that are being put in place on us, and all this change is taking place in government, it becomes overwhelming to the average person. What do I do about it? And people start down the line to try to do something, and then they get diverted over here to this issue. There's abortion, there's gun control, there's taxes, there's just where do I stop? Where do I start? What I have done with Agenda 21 issues, try to bring it down to a pinpoint. There is a kryptonite to sustainable development policies, which is a policy of Agenda 21. There's a kryptonite. The kryptonite is private property ownership and private property rights. They cannot impose sustainable development policies without destroying property rights. If you make property rights your number one issue, focus on that, you can defeat a lot of the other issues. But what I need to start with, to show you how this will work, I need 5 volunteers. Come right up here, stand right here with me. 5 volunteers. Get these. What I'm going to do is have a little election. You want elections? Now, I know you call them county supervisors here, right? We do in Virginia as well, but a lot of places they call them county commissioners. I make you a county commissioner, county commissioner, county commissioner, and I need one more. You guys are wonderful. Do you know how hard it is to get a bunch of cowboys in Colorado up here? County commissioner. Now, these guys run for office. Now, wouldn't you like to have them be your county commissioners, these guys right here? Would our community be safe? People run for office, and there are evil people who do and know what they're doing, but for the most part, they run because they want to be involved in the community. They want to do things. They want to help. But after a period of time, you find your ability to reach them, to talk to them, you get this arrogance. They like to be in those seats, usually up on high, looking down at you. And oh, goodness golly, they give you 3 minutes to talk to them. Hallelujah. Well, and when you do talk to them, they're not listening. If somebody listens to one of my talks and runs into the county commission, so you guys are implementing UN policy, Agenda 21, what do you get? The eye roll and the sigh and the smirk. And I've known some people who've been physically removed from the chamber from that. But what happens? They were good people. What happens to them? Well, I need 4 more volunteers, and I'll show you. 4 more. You are the Nature Conservancy. Now, you guys, county commissioners, stand forward here, and I want these folks to stand behind you. You are the International Council for Local Environmental Initiatives, ICLEI. You are the Sierra Club. You are the American Planning Association. I need one more. Sorry, one more. Here we go. Now, you are a local environmental land trust group. Now, I just have one name, this on here because every single community has their own. And even though I've got 5 people standing here, multiply it by 10, really, of who these guys are. Every single issue that you see, whether it's bike paths or it's how you're building your homes, energy use, you name the issue. Every single one of those things has a non-governmental organization that's behind it. That's their expertise. They know how to write it all up, and they know how to get the grant money. The grant money is the poison of what happens. The grants, first of all, when Bill Clinton was elected president, he created the President's Council on Sustainable Development. The President's Council had on it 12 of our federal agencies, represented as 12 agencies, some of the very same NGOs that wrote Agenda 21 at the UN in 1992, and global corporations were on it. Enron was on the President's Council of Sustainable Development. They knew exactly what they were doing. What they will say when they attack me, they will say, Agenda 21 is just a voluntary thing. It was just a good idea. It's not, it was a soft law policy. It was not something that a treaty that the Senate had to ratify. That is true. But after the President's Council on Sustainable Development, that changed. And these agencies, of course, began to put these things in place. And when what they do is they stand behind them in the dark rooms, in the back rooms, and they're standing there saying, hey, got it all right here in a box for you? Got the money for you, too. You don't even have to think. Just sign here. They do this. Now, the problem we run into here is as soon as we elect these guys who have never maybe been involved in anything before, what's the first thing we do? We start sending them to national meetings, National Conference of Mayors, the National League of Cities. That's why I need 6 more volunteers. I think it's 6. Let's see. Now, you are the National League of Cities. The National League of Cities is a 501c3 private organization, and it opposes any restrictions on state government taking of private land, among other things. There was a meeting in Minnesota just a few weeks ago of the National League of Cities there, and they were violently applauding somebody who was attacking private property rights, the National League of Cities. You stand over here. You are the National Association of Counties. You are a 501c3 nonprofit organization. You've established a Center for Sustainable Communities. You provide a framework for the President's Council on Sustainable Development. You are the National Conference of Mayors. You are a 501c3 private organization. You know what you did? You made the UN's Kyoto Global Warming Treaty a centerpiece of your agenda. Beautiful. You are the Council of State Governments. You are a 501c3 private organization. You promote worldwide sustainable zoning. You are the National Conference of State Legislatures, a 501c3 private organization, works to ensure federal programs are in state policy in a seamless and harmonized manner, creating the appearance that such policies are local rather than federal mandates. I need one more. Don't worry, you're all going to be here before it's over. Yeah. You are the National Governors Association, a 501c3 private organization. You advocate smart growth, more government benefits for illegals, and work to block workfare requirements for welfare benefits. Way to go. Now, here's where we send these guys as soon as we elect them to their meetings. And who is speaking to them from the podium? Them. They even give them sample legislation to bring it home. And as soon as they come home, representatives of them get right in front of them and say, did you get the sample legislation? Hey, got it in the box, got the money for you, got it all right here. As you've done this to them, they've gone to these meetings and they've seen more and more, and they're talking to other colleagues around the country, people who are also elected officials. They come home and go, well, this is a proper role of government. Yeah. That's what they begin to believe because that's all they see. They are surrounded. And now you come in there and you say, you guys are implementing UN Agenda 21, and that's why you're getting the eye roll. They've never even heard of it. By the way, I do need one more. I need one more. Come on. And I hate to tell you, you are taking the walk of shame. You are the National Association of Realtors, the #1 organization in this country that ought to be the biggest opponent of these programs and the biggest supporter of private property rights in this nation. Instead, they are taking the grants and they are promoting smart growth policies in communities across the country. These idiots don't understand if they keep this up, they will not have a product left to sell. And yet they're still running ads on television about how they help build the American dream. Really? This is what we're up against. Now, the question becomes, what do you do about it? I know you've all been up against this. You've all tried to go to city council. They have the plan, the comprehensive plans. They have the planning divisions. And every one of those plans is doing something to your communities. And they don't ever tell you. They tell you they have public meetings. They tell you that. Well, at those public meetings, there's nobody there but these guys. If one of you wanders in there, they're looking at you like, what do you do about it? Now, as I said, you rush in there and you say, lady, you know, you're implementing Agenda 21 and you get thrown out the door. What if we tried something else? Let me tell you about the American Planning Association. I love messing with these guys. Biggest cowards in the country. The American Planning Association is terrified that we will figure out what they're up to. When we started attacking Agenda 21 and going to city councils and doing some things, they immediately started putting together a boot camp for planners to teach them how to talk about planning. And they put together a glossary for the public to teach them words to say. And this is a document. This is the first paragraph of the introduction. It says, given the heightened scrutiny of planners by some members of the public, what is said or not said is especially important in building support for planning. I contend that if somebody is trying to hide what they're doing, they're a criminal and they're doing dirty things. That's what I believe, and that's what that says. Then they go on here to say, here are words not to use in planning, because it says, the following examples are words and phrases that have become highly politicized and generate suspicion among some citizens. And it makes us see red, it says. Words like organize and facilitate, public visioning, regionalism, smart growth, stakeholders, sustainability. My goal in life is to keep attacking every new word they come up with, so eventually they have to do their presentations in sign language. But here's something we could do. Instead of rushing up there and say, you're putting in Agenda 21, here is a document we've created. It's called a Resolution to Protect Citizens' Property Rights. Now what this says is three things. One, if they are going to do something that's going to affect your property, they'll bring you into the conversation. Boy, if they decide to go ahead with what they were planning to do, they're going to compensate you for any losses you have. And three, if they will not be allowed to bring their agents and so forth on with their cameras and their measuring sticks and everything else on your property to measure it all without your permission. That's a radical document, boy. Well, now here's what you do with this. You get those 3 minutes when they're up there on high, looking down at you, and you just say this, ladies, gentlemen, as you're bringing these plans and these planners into our community, I just got one question for you. What guarantees do I have that you'll protect my property rights? How many of you 5 own property? Yeah? So you'd say, oh, hey, don't worry. I own property too. Of course we'll protect property rights, right? I've got it on video, they do this. Now at that point you just smile and you say, I'm really happy to hear you say that. But ladies, gentlemen, I'd like to have it in writing, please. Now watch their heads blow off. And these guys back here go into a panic. No, the guys on that, no. I have had county attorneys mark it all up, say, you can't do that. This is illegal. That's against state law. You can't. All I want you to do is talk to me about what you're doing to my property and compensate me and respect my property rights. That's all it says. They go into a panic. Now, I have had people do this across the country, and not one of them has signed this. Because, what did I say was the kryptonite? If they sign this, they are destroying all of their plans. They can't implement them. So, why do I say this? This is a tool. I've put together a tool for you to use. You have set them up. Now we know who they are and what they are, and they will not protect property rights. And I guarantee you that there is one of them at least that is always the ringleader. The one who's closest to these guys back here, stuffing his pockets and also getting all kinds of political power. He's the one with the biggest smirk. He's the one who's the most arrogant. They refuse to sign this. Make them own their policies. That's number one. Make them own it. Now you look at the county commission. That's kind of a wall there. Of course, you know you got all this behind it, but that's kind of a wall, and that becomes intimidating to try to do something about. So begin to personalize it. You're the one who's making all this happen. Your name, is going on the target. We're going to get you out of office. Begin to put a campaign together against him. When I was in Colorado last week, they were telling me about this woman who's a county commissioner, and she had moved forward with programs to hurt the oil industry, which was the main source of income for their community in Durango, Colorado. And they showed me this chart. Here's what our income was, and now here's what it is now because of that. I said, put her picture on that chart. Make her own it. It's hers. And start a campaign to throw that person out of office. You know what victory looks like? Victory looks like when you've done that. And now these guys come in with their next plan. Oh, hey, got it right here for you. And all of them start to get this little drip of sweat coming right down their face going, you know what my people will do to me if we do that? That's what victory looks like. So this is the beginnings of forming a campaign. Now, when you form a campaign, one of the big mistakes people make is that they don't have a solid foundation to stand on. We talk about property rights, property rights, property rights. What are property rights? I use a definition that was written by a Supreme Court justice in the state of Washington in 1997. His name is Richard B. Sanders. They were starting to get in their Supreme Court there lots of cases on property rights because of the sustainable development policies being put in place. So they realized they didn't have a good definition. So he wrote this. Property in a thing consists not merely in its ownership and possession, but in the unrestricted right of use, enjoyment, and disposal. Anything which destroys any of the elements of property to that extent destroys the property itself. The substantial value of property lies in its use. If the right of use be denied, the value of the property is annihilated and ownership is rendered a barren right. Is that not what you have on your property? A barren right. You can pay the taxes and you can pay the mortgage. Beyond that, shut up. Now, this contains a single word that also creates a head explosion: unrestricted. A word like that in government? And I will guarantee you, if you do that, bring that out to them, the comparison that comes out that they will use, I absolutely guarantee this. I wish you'd do it so I know this was true. I know it's true. The first thing they will say is, if you allow unrestricted right of use, somebody's going to put a smelly old pig farm next door to you. They really hate pigs. And they always use that excuse. Well, the other things that happen, you know, I'll get into that later. And what we run into in a normal society, before we had those on high dictating to us what society was going to be like, what we had were neighbors. So, okay, Charlie next door has a bright light shining, or he's got a loud music, or whatever the case may be. You can walk over and say, Charlie, can you turn the light off? It's shining my bedroom window at night. Charlie's a good guy. He says, oh, okay, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. That's neighbors to being neighbors. Now, if Charlie's a jerk, now you have something that's existed since the beginning of time, human society. Nuisance laws. You take them to court. And that settles it. You don't need agenda for the 21st century. But now, back to this resolution. You presented it to them, and they refused to sign it. I had a head of a county commission in Roanoke, Virginia, said, well, I'm not going to sign that. And the lady who was presenting it said, well, why not? Well, I'm not going to debate it with you. I want you to debate, just why won't you sign this document? Because I think there's a bigger agenda here. Yeah. And I'm not in charge of it. That's the problem. So, you present this to them, and when they refuse to sign it, you ask the most radical question in the English language. Why? Now, The problem is, you go in there and do this alone. They go, you're gone. Don't do any of this alone. This is where the organization comes in. When they ask you, or you ask them why, you need 14 more people in line to ask them the same question. Now do the math. If you've got 14 people and each of them gets 3 minutes to say the same thing, now you're over half an hour. You're moving up. But here's what I'm going to do. Everybody stand up. Everybody. Stand up. And I want everybody to say, why? Why? Louder. Why? Louder. Why? That's the way your city council and county commissions need to sound. They need to know you're there. They are terrified that you will learn this. What you do now, after that, next meeting, you show up with brochures or with flyers, you have his picture on it. And you have on there, why won't he protect my property rights? And you begin to keep saying it over and over again. You get those 14 people, maybe get a couple of maybe 25 out in the lobby or out in the street at front with posters with all their pictures on it. Why won't they protect our property rights? Make it personal and make everybody understand. The other thing you do, you get, how many people like to do research? What your thing is doing research. You're the most valuable people in the room because get into the plans, the development plans in the community, and you will find certain neighborhoods that they are ready to bulldoze. You know, they talk about improvement. It's always improvement, healthier, beautiful neighborhoods, blah, 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 blah. But sometimes that bulldozer is aimed at lower income and ethnic neighborhoods. And you know what's in there? There are people in those neighborhoods who own their own home. There are people there who have their own businesses, mom and pop shops and so forth. And the bulldozer comes in, knocks all that down. What happens to those people who can no longer afford to live in that neighborhood? They are shut out of society, and they are pretty much escorted right on to welfare programs and so forth, and their life is over making decisions of their life. Go to those neighborhoods and say, do you know what they're about to do? And get them involved and recruit them, and you begin to build the movement. This is what we have to do. You cannot win our freedom back by sitting in our seats. We have to get up. We have to take action. They are terrified that you'll learn all this. These guys are the ones behind there, the NGO organizations, and all these guys. Why did I say all these guys are 501c3 private organizations? Because people think they're government. Governors Association, Mayor's Council, all that. They're not. They have no more power than anybody else except when these guys give it to them. Elect people who understand that and get rid of them. Run all of them out of town on a rail and take your community back. Thank you. You are dismissed. Thank you.